everybody, it's Damien here, creator and designer of Heroes of the Shire Light and Shadow. And we're beyond excited to be bringing you this new standalone title to game found later on this year. We're looking to launch a project somewhere between July and August, so stay tuned for the announcement date. This game takes everything that you've come to love about the Heroes of the Shire universe and it just takes it up to the next level with the introduction of combat maps, the introduction of movement system, new scenarios, new heroes, and we're really looking forward to sharing more of that with you, and we can't wait for you guys to experience that. Whilst we're eagerly anticipating our prototypes arriving from China over the next couple of months, we would like to show you guys a quick sneak peek of some of the new content. So we're just going to jump into our private Tabletop Simulator server right now, and we will open that up to the public close to the time of the launch. So we hope you guys enjoy the content that we're about to show you, and thank you very much for checking out our project. All the best. Bye bye.
Hey, welcome back. So we're just going to showcase a few of our new features that will be coming in Light and Shadow as we load up our private Light and Shadow mod here. Don't be alarmed when we open this mod up to the public. They'll be significantly less complex because we won't have all of these components in it. Of course, this is just our testing ground. So one of the first things you guys might notice is we have some new fancy playmats. And we've decided to go down the route of adding the grids on these just to help speed up setup. So this is our Shadow Knight one here. We've got the hero board we've placed here. We've got the spell mastery, the bonus spell mastery, cooldown dice up here, followed by the power cubes, miscellaneous items such as the standees, the clairvoyance. She's got future tokens like attack and support rows. We've got quest cards to be kept up there. We've got the equipment board with the miscellaneous slots on the side, shield token over here, and ability cards to the left of the hero board. So yeah, I mean, all our heroes will be getting one of these mats. And speaking of mats, we also have this really interesting villain player mat. It's going to be double-sided. One side's going to have the grids for the bosses, and then the other side is going to have what you can see here for the trash mobs. This will just help speed up playtime again, because in Light and Shadow, our cards, our trash mobs, and our pet cards will be getting these column trackers for the buffs and conditions. So of course you'll have to find another card and you'll have to add that card to the side of the pet. So this playmat here will just streamline that for the trash mobs. So when we summon some trash mobs, let's say one here, two there, three there, we pop them into place and we flip them over and they're almost ready to go. We've got the movement card, which would be placed up the top there, and again we've got a little miscellaneous box, and that would be, for example, if we're using the trash mob modification cards, we take one, and of course we'll move these dice out of the way and we take another there, and this would give us the modification specifically for that trash mob. So this one tells us that all the stats are permanently reduced by 1 except for HP, which is reduced by 3. And then when we look at the ultimate mode, which is for 6 players, 5 attacking heroes, to make the demonic imp a little bit stronger, his HP is increased by 22, and looks like the damage he deals is unpreventable and undefendable. And if we have a quick look down here, 7 plus intellect, so he's going to be hitting for 12 undefendable damage on an AoE each turn, which makes our ultimate mode significantly harder to coincide with those extra heroes. Okay, so that's the playmats. You may have noticed that we had a new updated turn order card. Funnily enough, this is actually one of the older drafts. We do have a newer draft in this because the artwork's changed, and we've added an extra column or two on the top due to our testing, showing that quite a few heroes do actually now go above 10 agility. We've got these combat maps. So these are really fun. This turns us into more of a boss battling adventure game into your typical sort of dungeon crawler with these combat maps now. So each scenario hex will be given a dual page spread like this here. And you might be able to see that this is hex 1 of the light scenario, so that's this specific hex here. You can see the artwork on that hex there, and we've taken that artwork here and we've just blown it up. Okay, and then again, if we go to hex 2, it's this artwork here, and it's just blown up. And what happens is, as we're traveling through our scenario, ignore the offsetting here. For some reason, our Tabletop Simulator mod won't let us rotate these hexes the correct way. I'm assuming because these hexes are not symmetrical, it looks like they're slightly oblong. But you can see the artwork matches there. So once we're in the Shire hex, we move to this hex. The first thing that happens on the exploration is we take an action card. So as you might already know, we take one of these action story cards. We read the little story and we pick one of the outcomes. They're a little bit like a build your own adventure book for those of you that are new to the Heroes of the Shire world. And then we're moving on. We move to this hex. We take another exploration card, and this one tells us summon 3 trash mobs to battle. So if we just use the 3 I've already summoned there, of course it wouldn't be from the shadow deck because we are playing the light scenario, so we'd be using the light monsters, not the shadow. But in our example, combat has now occurred on this hex here, which is hex 2. So what we'll now go and do is we'll move across to this combat map. So we'll take the Shadow Knight, which was our main hero here, and we'll pop the Shadow Knight over here on spawn point 2. That we haven't got them the right size. And then I'll go ahead and take my assassin and pop my assassin on spawn point 1. What you guys didn't see down here is that we do have the assassin as an ally card. And why do we spawn the assassin on spawn point 1 and the Shadow Knight on spawn point 2? And that's due to the turn order card, or if you're a D&D player, you'll be familiar with the term the initiative track. So our assassin, we've got the wrong tokens here, but this should be our assassin token. And then the assassin's at 9 agility. Meanwhile, our Shadow Knight is only at 6. So the assassin will spawn on point 1 and Shadow Knight on spawn point 2. If we go down here and have a look at our monsters, the Demonic Imp has 7 agility, the Undead Lich had 6, and the Crypt Crawler here has 6. So if we go Imp, Crawler, and Lich, of course we would set them on their turn order card here. Let's actually just do that. What did we say? Crawler at 7, Lich at 7, and Imp at... Did we say Imp was at 6? No, Imp is at 7, the Lich is at 6. It says Lich down here at 6. Again, apologies, we haven't got these all to the right size, and that's because this server's not live. This is just our practice one. So then when we spawn our monsters here, we've got the spawn points for monsters. Spawn point 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we find the monsters, so we've got the Crypt Crawler on 1, we've got the Imp on 2, and then we've got the Lich down here on 3. So that's as simple as the spawn points are. And we spawn all over the place in different maps. Sometimes you're adjacent to each other. Other maps you're like this, you're quite far away from your enemies. And then, as you'd expect now, we have some damage multipliers on the combat map. So if we are using a melee attack, if we are adjacent, there'll be a +1 attack modifier. If we're more than 2 hexes away, there'll be a -1. And if we're 3 or more hexes away, there'll be a -3 attack modifier added to our melee attacks. And then if we're using range, there'll be a -4 if we're adjacent to our enemies, and -1 for 2 hexes or more away. Apologies, for 2 hexes away, and then also -1 if we are 3 or more hexes away. Okay. One thing that we need to tune into as well is there's a little bit of flavor text up here, and this actually sort of lets us know what's going to thematically happen on this map. So this says it's hex 2. The radiant sunstone pulses with blinding energy. Its light illuminating the battlefield with an unnatural intensity. As its glow washes over the monsters, their forms twist and grow, transforming into stronger, more fearsome versions of themselves. Okay, so then when we come down here and have a look at the key, what the key tells us is these orange hexes are called Sunstone Essence, and the yellow hexes are called Sunstone Ruins. So we've got these 2 in the middle here. These are the yellow Sunstone Ruins, and around the outside we've got the Sunstone Essence. And let's have a quick look at what they do. But bearing in mind the little flavor text up here, its glow washes over the monsters, their form twists and grows, transforming them into a stronger, more fearsome version of themselves. So the Sunstone Essence says, during battle, when a standard trash mob enters these hexes, they immediately evolve into their elite form. When evolving into elite form, HP set to max. If that trash mob's elite card is already in play, instead that mob gains +2 semi-permanent stats to all except HP, to all stats, and HP returns to max. So for those of you that are new to the game, when we spawn these monsters randomly from this deck here, if they're in a gold frame, such as this one here, they will be regular framed. Bronze, my apologies. If they're in bronze, they will be regular monsters, and then if we have the gold ones, they will be elite. But this deck is quite short, so it actually looks like, oh, okay, we've got a gold monster here. So this one has a gold frame, so this is an elite monster. Okay. So that's what the Sunstone Essence does. And then the Sunstone Ruins is really nice if you're playing the Light Mage or the Paladin, the Cleric, or the Clairvoyant. If battle ends and you are on this hex and you are a light elemental type hero, you will gain a power cube to spend after combat. And our Shadow Knight character down here, as you'd imagine, he is the Shadow Elemental type hero. So unfortunately, there's no point in him trying to end combat on that light hex over there. And the last thing to look at then is in the top left corner, resources. When we were designing this, we were sort of inspired by a very popular video game called Fortnite. And in Fortnite, there's airdrops throughout the map. And these airdrops incentivize players to stop camping, so to speak, and to move around the map to go get the new weapons and to go get the new best buffs at certain locations. And we have something similar here. So we can see that on round 1, the red hexes will get an airdrop of the advantage status effect, and it will last for 2 turns. So let's go and do that now, because the map would start on round 1. We would have a D10 dice up here, not a D6. Just using a D6 for example. And this is for the map. So the red hexes gain advantage. Let me grab the advantage condition. And these are the red hexes here. We've got 1 there, and we've got 2 there. And we differentiate the difference between these hexes and the ones on the key, because these hexes have the little markers on the outside, sort of on the perimeter of the hexes, and you can see that on these blue ones here. And these are the ones that are part of the resources, and these are the ones that will get the airdrop. So the advantage status effect, or we call them conditions in our game, would be on these 2 hexes here. And we take a little, these are new little mini dice that we're going to be bringing out, and we place them next to the status effect, and it will tell us it's for 2 turns. Okay, and it tells us for 2 turns by this little number in the top right corner. Okay, that would be the setup for the map, and then let's look at how we move these guys around. So come the Shadow Knight's turn, we have our usual token upkeep, where we'd slide across any tokens that we're using to track our new increased buffs or conditions. We'd have our dice upkeep. We would then also have our new movement upkeep, and our new movement upkeep is where we would, pre-game we'd set up this movement deck, which is a generic 20 card deck for all of the heroes, and then there's also a 10 card deck for all of the enemy monsters. Now each hero does have 5 cards that are unique to themselves. So as you'd expect, the Shadow Knight, his movement, he has a little bit more pulling the enemy towards him because he's predominantly a melee character, and he will be dropping some status effects on the map, more of the feared and the darkness and the frightened conditions. Whereas if you were playing the Light Mage, she's going to be dropping things like glowing and enlightened around on the map as well. So those 5 cards would get shuffled in to the 20 card deck, which is why you can see here that our hero movement deck is 25 cards. It's the 20 plus the 5 of the Shadow Knight. So we would, during our movement upkeep, we draw 3 cards. Let's go 1, 2, 3, and we'll have a quick look at these. We get to pick 1 and discard the other 2. So we've got this one here, which is move 2 as we cast a spell. This one, there's no movement, but allows us to place 3 bleed status effects on the battlefield on 3 hexes, and this one is both. So let's discard these 2, and we'll keep this 1 card. So anytime we cast a spell, it tells us what it does on the card, but once you get familiar with where we place the icons on this card, you don't actually need to read any of this text. So without reading this text, I know that I can move 2 hexes before I cast the spell, and I can place the feared condition on 2 hexes for 2 turns after I've cast the spell. And that's because we place the movement icon to the left of the circle. If it's to the right of the circle, it would be after we've cast this spell. Okay. I am incentivized to pick my own movement cards, and in doing so, I'm able to increase the value of any of these numbers I can see by a value of 1. So because I chose the Shadow Knight's movement card, and I am actually playing the Shadow Knight, I could instead move 3 hexes instead of 2, or I instead could place the status effect on 3 hexes on the map, or alternatively I could make them the duration of those conditions on the map last for 3 turns instead of 2. So let's go ahead and cast one of my spells. We'll cast Doomstrike here. So we place a dice on it for 3 because that's what the cooldown value tells us in the bottom right corner. 0 damage, strength, and agility is the attack modifier. Right now my strength is 6, my agility is 6, so I'm going to attack an enemy monster for 12, but I'm able to move 2 the moment I cast the spell. If you're familiar with our spell sequencing section in the rulebook, the moment you cast the spell, you place a dice on it, and then I can move. So my Shadow Knight is here, and let's say I want to move 2 hexes towards this undead lich over here, so I'm going to go 1, 2. Now I am only 2 hexes away, so my melee attack modifier, instead of being -3, has now gone to -1. Then we'll resolve the spell, and we said earlier that the damage was 12 if I'm attacking this lich over here. 12, his defense is only 6, so, oh sorry, it was 12 minus the 1, wasn't it, from the map, so that'd be only 11 damage. 11 minus 6, we'd hit this monster for 5, so 20, this guy would go down to 15 HP. Okay, then after I've cast that spell, I am now able to place the feared condition on the map for 2 turns on 2 hexes adjacent to my enemy. Now this is my enemy, so I'd find the new status effect called feared. And this is my enemy, so adjacent to him, so I could place it here, I could place it here, or I could place it here. Now I might potentially be moving here, so I think I'm just going to place it there and there. And the duration again was only for 2 turns, so after I've cast the spell, the map would look a little bit like this. And let's just pretend we've gone through an entire round, and then we move on to the next round. So at the beginning of the next round, obviously we'd flip all our turn order tokens over once we'd start the round, and normally we would start with a player at the top. However, now in Light and Shadow, the map will begin first. So the map will have its own maintenance upkeep. So that's what this dice up here, or this die up here does. It will track the maintenance upkeep. So this would move to a 2. All the die on the map will now reduce by a value of 1, like a hero dice upkeep. So these 2s would go 1, 1, 1, 1. And this is to ensure that the combat maps are not just clogged up with these tokens here, that after a couple of rounds they do actually move off the map. So once the maintenance upkeep is done, we now have a look at the airdrop. And over here we've got these blue hexes are now going to get the new cursed effect for 3 turns. So we find cursed, and these are the blue hexes here. So we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. However, because the assassin character is still on his hex, his spawn point, and he's not moved off that on his first turn, instead of placing it adjacent to him, he simply takes the curse condition and he will receive it for 3 turns, as stated here in the top right corner. It lasts for 3 turns. So now you know that. If the Shadow Knight would be pushed or pulled into any of these here, let's say we were pulled into this hex here, what would happen is I would take these conditions and they would go on my hero board for the exact duration they were on the map. So they were both for 1 turn, so I would gain feared for 1 turn and I'd gain advantage for 1 turn. Okay. And that's it. Trying to keep this really short and really simple. That's a good indication in how these combat maps work. And during our first Kickstarter, we were praised for our hero designs, that all our heroes are uniquely different and that there was no reskin. And what some of our community members meant by that is that we didn't just change the artwork and effectively they're the same spells, with a few different, numbers change. All our characters really do feel different once they're playing, and we're trying to do the same thing here, guys, with our hexes. So when we look at this map, remember the enemy monsters, they will evolve into their elite forms, and there's a bonus for the light characters here. When we look at our first hex over here, we got hex 1. The flavoured text over here is: the air howls with relentless force, whipping through the jagged terrain, carrying everything in its wake. The sky above churns with restless clouds, casting shadows over the desolate landscape. In this place, the wind seems alive, testing you with every gust. Now, when we come down to the key, we can read the key, but I'm just going to explain it for you. These arrows on the map are effectively a snake. When we're playing the board game, most of us would have played as children, Snakes and Ladders. So if your character it gets pushed or pulled or moves into one of these, into the wind, during the end phase of whichever character's turn it is, that here will be pushed all the way through the wind, and then it will move to this blue hex here where they are pinned up against the wall, where they're paralysed, can't attack the next turn, and they do take 2 undefendable damage for each hex that they are pushed across. We can see this map here has protection for 2 turns on the spawn points of the enemy trash mobs, the first 2, 1 and 2, making them much more difficult to kill on the first turn. This map here, we have water surrounding a small little little island in the middle. So our attack modifiers represent that with -5 on both, meaning the players really need to get to the island. And up here on the resources on round 2, you've been spotted by an enemy patrol. Summon an additional trash mob. If you're playing on hard or ultimate mode, you'll summon 2 trash mobs instead of 1. Okay. We have this map here, our key, terrain boundaries. You can see these big, chunky, bold white lines. Again, without reading it, I'll elaborate on what they do. Effectively, you can't target an enemy through them, and you cannot move through them because you don't have line of sight, meaning you have to move around these effectively brick walls in order to kill your enemies. And you can see here, when you spawn several bigger monsters, bigger quantities of monsters on the hard and ultimate modes, they'll be spawning here on spawn point 3 and 5 and 4, meaning you can't even get to them maybe until round 4 or 5, meaning they're much harder to kill. And we have the same for our bosses. So this boss battle here, we've got some additional boss mechanics. So this boss will deal 5 undefendable damage in an X shape to all players, and there's lots of strategy moving around these combat maps. And so far in our testing, and all the community members on our Discord channel that have had a little sample of this, there's probably about 30 of them by now, have loved it and give us the confidence to go on and finally bring it to GameFound, because it's been in development now for a little over 18 months. So we look forward to sharing a lot more of this with you guys. We hope you enjoyed this very short demonstration of the combat map and how the movement cards would work. Sorry, one thing we didn't mention actually on the movement cards is the enemy monsters don't get the luxury like the heroes where they get to draw 3 and pick 1. They just get given 1 card, and if we're using this new playmat, they'll just get popped there and they're all flipped over. So this one was some hextivity, this one was pushing enemy 3 hexes, and this one was some more hextivity. Okay, and we've recorded this video several times, and it ended up being too lengthy, and it ended up turning into a playthrough more than a quick demonstration. So we hope that was enough information for now. Of course, we'll do lots more deep dives on our new heroes, because we can keep you talking for a good hour for each hero, and we do have 10 coming. So we'll cover all their unique spells and abilities and all these new bonus spell masteries in another video. So for now, thank you very much for watching, and we hope you've enjoyed it as much as we've enjoyed sharing it with you. Take care for now. Bye bye.